and welcome to Embracing the Fight. I am Eric Lamar, your digital creator and host. And if you've been with me since January of 2023, you will know that Embracing the Fight is about normalizing the conversations surrounding physical and mental health issues and concerns. And I started the conversation off discussing my journey through thyroid cancer, and I feel great at the moment. I'm not experiencing any issues, and I will go back, for a reevaluation in July. So I'm already claiming my healing, and I want you to shout it, say it with me, and enter me in your prayers if you believe and you trust and you know that God can heal me. I don't need anyone or anybody thinking about, praying for me and doing it half-heartedly, because when I pray with all my heart, all my soul for anyone that I pray for. So, with that being said, the title of today's episode is Being a Vessel. Now, before I get into that, I would like to thank all of my subscribers who are diligently listening, sharing these messages, and commenting. And if you haven't had the chance to do so, there's still time. You can subscribe, click like, click share, and comment on this podcast, because I'm very interested to know what you found or what you liked or what you didn't like or what you want to know, more about concerning these episodes. And if you would like to be on Embracing the Fight, you can send me a message to operations@diversitydesigned.com, or you can go on my page on Facebook, Embracing the Fight, and you can send me a DM or you can comment. I would like to be on Embracing the Fight. All right, so let's dive right into episode 71, Being a Vessel. So, oftentimes when you go to church, you hear about all the miraculous works and things, that God does and the things that He has done. And if you notice, a lot of them are done, through people. Think about all the miracles, that Jesus did, or the times that the disciples spoke and did things that they were instructed, specifically by God to do. And you saw the amazing, reaction or what happened on the other side of it. So let me tell you a little story. The other day, it was maybe last week, last maybe Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere around there. And I was actually at a gas station. I had left work, and you know how we do, since some of us don't like to pump gas. One of those people. I mean, gotta have gas, gotta put in your car, but it's just one of those things that you really don't think about just doing. And little things going off saying ding ding ding, you got 50 miles to E, and that's really bad in certain parts, Florida, because you drive for a long way and you won't see, a gas station. It won't be 50 miles, but it'll be just far enough to where you start to panic. I had another little funny story about that when my aunt and I were driving back from one of my uncle's funerals, my Uncle Milton. We were riding along, and then all of a sudden the car, was like ding, 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 ding. And it's like, oh, we almost out of gas. So actually, it was my Aunt Rita's funeral. It wasn't my Uncle Milton. But either way, we're sitting there, and my aunt just looks at me and she says, oh, no, we're going to make it, because God's going to make a way. Even with my negligence, she still had enough faith and enough wherewithal to say to me, don't worry, we're going to get here. We're going to make it, no problem. And she was right. Pulled right into a gas station, filled up, and made it home with no issues. But this story time that I'm going to talk about is when I went to the gas station last week. So I pulled up to the gas station, put in my little code or whatever for my company truck. And after I put in the code, I put in, the mileage, and I keep hearing this sound. It sounds like a muffled cry. So mind you, there are a couple of, vehicles around the truck that I'm in, and the doors are open on all of them. So I don't see anybody, but I hear, these muffled cries. So deep in my heart, I feel, this pain. And at the same time, it's like, do I want to get involved? But then the other side of me says, why not get involved? Because someone is hurting for some reason. You may not be able to solve their issue, but you might be able to help them, lessen the pain. So finished pumping my gas, and I finally realized who it was, because she actually closed the door. Well, when she closed the door, I put the gas pump handle, I put it back up, and I walk over to her and I say, "Is everything okay?" So she just bursts into tears and she says, "No, someone just called me and told me that my father passed away." And at that moment, I could feel, her pain, because I couldn't imagine someone calling me in the middle of my day to tell me that someone has passed away. Sure, you look on social media now, people have become so desensitized to others' feelings that someone could get shot somewhere, someone could be in a car wreck, and you looking on, Facebook and Instagram, and you see pictures of wherever the incident is. And that lets you know that if someone sees that car, they see that outfit, they see an area, they're automatically going to know that it's one of their family members. And depending on where they are, the level of the stress that hits them can be magnified. So here I am, talking to this lady, and she is literally boo-hooing. I mean, she is crying so hard that she can barely, stand. So I go over and I wrap my arms around her and I tell her, everything is going to be okay. And I told her, based off of, how she is mourning, I could tell that her father meant a great, deal to her. And I couldn't even express to her how important it is for her to let it out as much as she could at this point. I know, grieving is a process, but I needed her to understand that if she continued to cry and feel this way, how would she get home safely? I offered, I said, "Hey, do you need me to drive you, home?" And she was like, "Oh, no, I live, pretty far from here." It was maybe an hour and 10, hour and 20 minutes, away from where we were, maybe a little bit longer. And I was like, "Hey, if my manager will allow me, to go, I will definitely take you. No problem, because I'd rather know that you've made it, home safely, than for me to sit here and wonder what happened to this lady who just lost her father at this time, and we're at this gas station." So the next moment, I just told her, just continue to cry. It's like, don't worry about, all the folks walking around. Because people were starting to like kind of stop and stare and look like they wanted to come over and ask questions. I said, pay that no attention. Pretend as if it's just you and the Lord right now. And God is trying to offer you some peace. He's trying to offer you some solace in this moment. And then she was like, "Well, I'm trying to call my mom." And she showed me, her phone, and she didn't have a signal. And I was sitting here going, "Well, God, how in the world did the person that was reaching out to tell her that her father passed away, how did they get through? And now she can't make a solitary call." So it dawned on me, after the fact, because I said, here's my phone. Go ahead, call who you need to call, message who you need to message, let them know, this is, Erica's phone, and who, what you're calling for, all that. She was calling people, and she was like, she said what her name was, and then she was like, "Miss Erica, let me use her phone because my phone's not working at the moment." So because I knew that she had done work, where I worked, we got in touch with her boss and the dispatchers and everyone to shut off her work for the day, because she was done. She needed to get home. She needed to get to, her mother and her sister, so they could, comfort one another. They could be there for one another. But before I let her out of my sight, I said, "Let me pray with you." And for the next couple of minutes, I prayed with her. And I asked God to give me the words to say to her that would give her enough comfort, enough strength to where she could get into her vehicle, get on the highway, travel to where her sister and her mother were safely. So they wouldn't have to worry about her either. And after I finished praying with her, I said, hey, now that you have my number, because you've called your mom, you called your sister, you sent messages and things of that nature. Now that you have my number, I said, let me go ahead and send you text. So I sent her a text, just with my name. And I said, just let me know, that you made it home. So about 2 hours later, she sends me a text and she says, thank you. I made it home. And in that moment, I knew that God needed a way to comfort her, to make sure that she got home safe. So in my mind, I could be wrong. In my mind, I was saying that she got my number because she knew that I would be thinking about her as she traveled along the highway, that I would be wondering how she was. And because she seemed like the type of person that cared about people, I knew that she would reach out and let me know that she was okay. So God used me as a vessel to help hold this woman in the hollow of his hand until she made it to where she needed to safely. Now, that's not, the only story that I had for today, because I was talking with another lady whose husband, I had an appointment that I had to make. And I got a message saying I need to cancel the appointment because my husband had to go in for an emergency surgery. Of course, I'm not upset at all. First thing I want to know is he okay? And you let me know when we can meet, when we can talk again, because you can't, just because business or money or something like that may be exchanged, never does that take the place of the people that you love. Because you can work, all your life and make all kinds of money. But if you have no one to love and no one to share it with, or no one to tell about it, what good is it? I mean, that's like hoarding a bunch of crap. It's not worth anything. Sure, you can go on elaborate cruises and, go to amazing, travel destinations. But if you don't have anyone to share this with, you feel so hollow and you feel empty. So I told her, I was like, that's absolutely fine because it's your husband. You know, I just have an appointment. We can reschedule. And we did. And it was interesting that during our appointment, I shared, the story about the young lady that God used me to comfort. And she said, you know what? When I was sitting in the waiting room, waiting for my husband, to go in and, come out for his surgery, there was a lady, her husband, and I think it was her two daughters. They were all sitting out there in the waiting room. And one of her daughters was supposed to have surgery. So she's sitting there, her husband goes back, and then this couple, their daughter, goes back. Well, her husband comes out and they're like, oh, everything's well. All came out the way that it was supposed to come out with whatever type surgery he was had. However, she was sitting there and she started to wonder. She was like, why haven't they come out and said anything about that young lady? Well, when the doctors came out, they pulled the mom and the dad over and they spoke in hushed voices. And at that moment, the mother broke down. And all she could do as a wife and a mother is get up and go over and comfort her. Because if you think about it, this is the odd number of people because the daughter went back to have the surgery. There's another daughter that's there, the father and the mother. So the sister, is being comforted by the father, and the mother is literally just hanging on by a thread trying to figure out what am I gonna do. And this lady whose appointment, I was with, or I was in, she was going over, and she offered words of comfort with this woman, and she prayed with her and told her, that everything was going to be okay. And by the time, she left, they had found peace. She doesn't know, what the doctors had to say, but she basically, spoke life and told this woman that regardless of what they say, everything is in God's hand. There's a way that He can turn things around. So anytime you hear people speaking negatively of something, could you possibly be in that place for God to use you to speak positivity? So what happens when your feelings get hurt? When you don't, get that job promotion, or that guy or that girl that you were interested in, they don't even know that you exist. Are you supposed to dim your light? Are you supposed to walk past people when you see them hurting just because you're hurt? Sometimes when you are in the valley moments in your life, that is a time when God can use you the most. And I believe that because when you're at your lowest point, His strength is being made perfect. Because you're weak. You have nothing to give. It's this like, if you listen to anyone, who's famous, and they have these amazing stories of, how I was homeless and how I did drugs, and I went to rehab and I lost everything. And then it's like, now they're on top of the world. And I believe that this all happened because when they were at their absolute lowest, they were at their absolute weakest point, God was able to come in and be their strength. So, in order for the world and for people to heal, God has to put, vessels out there. You have to be a willing vessel. You can't be, God tell you to smile at somebody. You can't be scowling, talking about who. No, you're supposed to put a pretty smile, on your face when it hits your heart. And people often ask, how do you know is God speaking to you? So if you spend time with Him, if you're praying, if you're reading your word, if you are fellowshipping with His people. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that I'm in church every Sunday. Now, before COVID, you couldn't pry me out of there. But COVID and the TV have, made me be at home, and I watch my church, every Sunday, and that's Carmel Friendship. And I absolutely love my pastor and his wife. They give me an amazing word. I'm being fed there. I have, no qualms, no issues at all. But what I'm saying is, to have that right relationship with God, you really need to talk to Him. You need to study. You need to know His word. You need to pray. You can't just walk around, snatching stuff out of thin air. It's like, if somebody walked up to you, you got on a name tag, and your name tag says your name. Just because they know your name doesn't mean that they know you, because they've never spent time with you. They've never talked to you. They just heard about you and they read your name. So think about how God feels when He's looking for a vessel to use, and you hadn't taken 2 seconds to get down and pray. Now, am I ridiculing you? No, never do that. But what I'm asking you to do is take a moment to prepare yourself to be a vessel for God. There's such a great blessing in it. I mean, I can't tell you how amazing it felt when I got back in my truck, because I was going to go, get lunch. And when I got to the place that I was getting lunch, the lady was looking at me. She said, "Oh, you just glowing." And I'm sitting here saying, people have been telling me that a lot lately. She was like, "No, no, no. No." She was like, "Not just your skin." She was just like, "It's like a light around you." I was like, wow, that is a true compliment that you can give someone that they are really glowing, like they have the presence of God, on their life. Now, if that's what that lady meant, I'm not sure, but that's the way I'm taking it. That's what I'm saying it is. Because with all the things that have gone on in my life over the past few years, my friends often wonder, how do I keep this smiling? Like it's nothing but God, nothing but God's grace, nothing but Him living on the inside of me. Because truth be told, I should look haggard. I should look like I've been through the fire and I've been through the rain. I've been through all these storms, but I don't, because I trust God and I know that the only way I can continue to draw people to Him is if I reflect His goodness and His grace. Now, who do you think, and this is just like the superficial side of things, who do you think somebody's going to be drawn to? Someone who looks downcast, someone who is dealing with hardship all the time, someone who's always complaining, or are they going to go to someone who looks like they have light and joy, flowing through them, someone who speaks life, someone who encourages, someone who isn't being fake, who isn't trying to, pull people in for self gratification? You can see through that. You can ask God to lead you and guide you and direct you to the right type of people that you should have in your life. Because there's nothing wrong with being alone. There's nothing wrong with spending time by yourself, because it's in those moments that God can speak. So if you want to be a vessel, then open your heart, open your mind, allow God to speak to you and through you to people. So when it drops into your spirit, don't question it. Act. Do what God is asking you to do. Now, I'm not saying don't question it in the sense that if you don't understand. No, if you don't understand, get clarification. Nothing wrong with asking God to clarify how He wants you to do something. But don't be sitting and say, why you want me to do that? No, 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 don't do that. Allow Him to speak through you. Because being a vessel has so many positive aspects to it. And I want you all to experience it. So thank you so much for taking a moment out of your busy day to listen to Embracing the Fight. This is episode 70, Being a Vessel. I just thank you. And I want you all to have an absolutely amazing and blessed day.